you do not prove that you are a good husband or a good father or a good man when things are easy. The only time that you can prove to yourself that you are loyal to your children, that you are loyal to your spouse, that you are loyal to your business, that you are loyal to your passion and your drive and your dream is when the world absolutely crumbles before you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. Today's guest has taken his passion for music production and built an incredible career and business for himself. Collaborating with some of the biggest names in dance music, he has created multiple courses, sample packs, and also a podcast of his own, teaching thousands of producers all over the world how to make great music and establish themselves as artists. This is Wyatt Christensen from DAW Nation.
What's up, everybody? Nick, you're wonderful. You're amazing. I want to look like you. Thank you for having me on, man.
Dude, I am so stoked. You know, I usually like to start off these episodes with a little bit of context about how I know my guests, because for the most part, I oftentimes have a little bit of a history or a relationship. Sometimes I've had some guests come on that it's been the first time that we've ever talked. But for you and I, it's been really fun to reconnect because I actually had the honor and privilege of being on your podcast about 5 years ago. And so your name popped up. One of my listeners was like, dude, I've been waiting for a podcast like this. You know, like I haven't heard one, since DAW Nation. And I was like, wait a minute, I got to tell Wyatt that like, yo, I got a podcast now too. Like, how exciting is this? And so full circle moment. I was a guest on your podcast. Now you're going to be a guest on my podcast. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. I'm so excited, dude.
Yeah. And that was a fun one. I'm going to actually include a link to that episode in the show notes. I was just clicking through it. It was 5 years ago. It was actually
5 years ago,
right when I started life coaching. I don't even think I had become like certified or gone through my training program yet, but we actually did we ended up doing kind of an impromptu life coaching session on the episode.
It was so helpful, dude. It changed my mindset on so many things. You're such a good coach, dude. You're in the right business, Nick. Gosh dang it. Anyways, dude, it's so crazy to see us come full circle with us. I'm stoked. Let's hop into it, man.
I actually have a question from one podcaster to another, especially because we do have the same demographic. First off, like, what are one or two guests or episodes that come to mind that are some of your favorite that you would maybe recommend somebody to go listen to?
I would say probably arguably one of my favorite ones. Anyone who knows anything about DAW Nation knows this isn't any surprise, but the one I did with AU5, which was like before the one I did, the one I did with you. So that one was just fantastic. Obviously yours is fantastic. The Flux Pavilion one was really, really cool as well. The Crywolf stuff is always fantastic. Let's start there. That's a good starting point to go check those out.
And I'm actually really asking for myself, so now I have a couple artists to go hit up because I'm gonna add those guys to my list and get them on at some point for sure.
Yeah, man, they're good friends. I'll just hit them up for you if you want me to. And
there we go. That's what's up. You see, it's all, this whole industry is about giving,
That's right.
and helping people. And the more you help, the more you put yourself out there, the more like karma comes back to you,
Yes.
That's what it's all about, baby.
That's what's up, man.
Something I've noticed about my podcast, I have been noticing certain things that most people bring up, or there's been these things that have been mentioned multiple times. For my podcast so far, I would say almost every artist has talked about the importance of really treating your career as a career, like really seeing yourself as a business owner, not just being an artist, not just making music, but if you want to be a full-time artist, you really also have to get serious about the business part, see yourself as a business owner, see yourself as an entrepreneur. That's something that's been mentioned in almost every episode. How many episodes did you do with your podcast?
Yeah, so it's over 200. Yeah.
That's insane. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
So rad. It's so inspiring. Someday I hope to be at, even 100 will be awesome. I'm going to get there for sure.
You're going to get there, dude.
For sure. Now, what are some themes perhaps that you have noticed after talking to, 100 plus 200 artists? What are some things that maybe some themes or some, topics or ideas that have been brought up?
That's such a fantastic question. What is one of the main common denominators between episodes, so to say, right? Yeah, man. So one of them is actually, ironically, one of the things that you just brought up, which is there seems to be this kind of aversion to the business side of music, that there's this inherent belief that if your music is good enough, if your art is good enough, then everything will be hunky-dory. You'll have all the money in the world. You'll get all the collabs. You'll get all the record labels banging at your door. And that's just not the case. That's completely ridiculous to think that. To think that you can have a business without treating it like a business is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so that is a common denominator. Another common denominator is this idea that these people that come on the podcast who have done extraordinarily amazing things are people. They are actually people. They go to bed just like you and I do. They eat breakfast, hopefully, just like you and I do. They have blood types, and they have families, and they have fears, and they have cringy memories that they try to forget about when they're trying to work. And they're just like you and me. And in some cases, they're desperate to try and convey that to people. Like, stop godifying me. Stop putting me on a pedestal. I'm just like you. And so that's another common denominator, is bridging the gap between the people listening to the podcast and the people that are being interviewed on the podcast. That's also another, intense desire that seems to be a common denominator.
Yeah, that's great. That's like one of my favorite children's books, Everybody Poops.
Everybody poops, man. Science has shown.
Remember that when you think that there's some huge gap between you and your favorite artists. Like, at the end of the day, they're still human. They still poop. They
do.
Yeah. And that, that's something that I mean, for me, that's what I really love about what I do when it comes to, I still look at myself really as a life coach. And it's like, I really just like coaching the human, right? Like, underneath the artist goal and the journey and building your brand and doing your marketing and doing all of that. It's like, that's why I am so focused on the sort of mindset part, where it doesn't matter like who you are or what you're doing, that internal piece of like what's happening inside of you. It's like, you're still a human. You still have fears. You still have challenges. You still have real life shit that comes up. Like, it doesn't matter how quote unquote successful you are. Like, you're still a human. And also on the other side of it, I think sometimes you do see artists that also kind of lose sight of that. Like, they almost become too much of the artist, or, the ego becomes a bit too big, and they actually start to think that they're better than people, or they kind of take on that godlike thing. And, that's where I like to come in and, bitch slap them around a little bit, bring them back to earth. Like, come on now. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about DAW Nation, because you have built a really, really cool business for yourself. Tell us about what DAW Nation is. What do you guys do over there?
DAW Nation, the entire concept of it is to go and find music producers that are actually doing what we all want to do, which is make music, make a living off it, tour, the whole 9 yards, and have them, not me, have them teach you how to do that. I remember when I was starting to learn music production, one of the most infuriating things that I found was I'd go to YouTube and I'd find people who were trying to teach me to do things, and they weren't doing it themselves. Like, I was like, who the heck are you? You're not a full-time music producer. You why would I listen to you? Where are your credentials? Is the biggest credential that they had is the amount of views that they had on their YouTube channel, or the amount of the subscribers that they had. And I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, why would I trust you? And then along came a little guy by the name of AU5, and he blew my mind. He had some tutorials, and I hit him up and like very timidly was like, hey man, I know you're probably really busy and stuff, but like, do you do private lessons? He's like, yeah, I'm free this Tuesday. You want to schedule? I'm like, what? Yes, please, whatever, let's go. And so I scheduled a thing with him, and I was like, this is a guy who has a career, who knows what he's talking about. Clearly,
yeah.
He is who I want to be. And I was like, wait, this is like revolutionary, to learn how to be the person you want to be from the person you want to be. Like, wow, what a crazy novel idea. And so from that, I saw a huge need. I saw so many people expressing the same concern, the same pain. And I was like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that. That's kind of the extremely short version of how we got to DAW Nation. From there, obviously, we started doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah. We launched the podcast with the In the DAW series, and then the Behind the DAW series. And then eventually we started making courses with the people who actually have careers. The first one that we launched was with AU5. And it's just been phenomenal. And the feedback has been like, finally, like, yes, like to go and find the people that are doing what I want to do, and then to have that information in such a beautiful and succinct and easy to access format, it's just insane.
Hell
right?
yeah.
So that's the entire ethos of DAW Nation, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally get that, because even for myself, it's like, yes, I've worked in the music industry for a long time, right? So I definitely have the things that I've seen, the things that I've learned. I've worked with a lot of artists. I've been a manager. I've worked at major labels.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, I'm also not an artist. And so that was a big, two things that were a driving force for the podcast was, one, I was like, I could tell you these things, but also for you to hear it from somebody who actually is a full-time artist as well, it might land differently. It also might validate some of the things that I'm saying. And also I'm just learning a ton. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I actually haven't thought about that as well. So let me bring that into, some of the things that I'm, sharing in my coaching. So I totally get that, man. I think it's so rad that you've, not only created that as a business for yourself, but more importantly, you have created that to serve the community and to truly help people get to that next level in their career. And I know that you are a mission-driven person, just like myself, right? Where it's like, yes, it's nice to have a business. We get to make money doing fun things and being entrepreneurs and being business owners. That's rad. But what's most important is like, are we actually impacting people's lives? And so cool to see you doing that, man. Who are some of the other artists that you've collaborated with over there?
Yeah, so the vast majority of our products for sure are going to come from AU5. Insane. The dude is an alien. I don't know how he does what he does. And so AU5 is definitely the one that we've done with the most. And then we've done some with Zan Griffin, Levitate, Crywolf, Tynan, Crystal Skies, KJ Saka, Halion, and Matthew Steeper. And those are the ones that I can talk about right now. Those are the ones I can confirm without wandering into NDA territory.
So that implies that you've got some cool shit coming up.
Holy crap, dude. Like this, I don't know if you want to nerd out about that kind of stuff right now, but yes, the answer is yes.
All right. Well, that's rad. So wait, let me ask you, with the courses that you're teaching, is it just production stuff, or do you also teach like business stuff and marketing and that other side of it as well?
The vast majority of the courses that are available right now are production related. The one that isn't necessarily production related is one with Crywolf, where he shares his creativity system of how to truly be creative all the time, no matter what, with any system, with any plugins, with any just your laptop in the middle of a forest, like that kind of like being able to be creative no matter what with anything that's going on in your life. So there's that courses coming on. But yeah, the vast majority of them are production related. I am planning to do, me personally, I'm planning to do a full-on marketing course. I don't know when, and actually explain the concept of how to market, how to run ads, how to run funnels, like how to actually really, really leverage the business side of monetizing your brand. And so that's eventually going to come. It's going to be a while, to be honest. I got a lot going on. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, for all you music producers out there that are listening to this podcast, I know there's a lot of you. Definitely go check out the DAW Nation courses. I mean, I've been really seeing this whole framework develop, which for me is there's like 5 pillars to really what it takes to be a successful headlining artist. First and foremost is mindset, right? Yeah. That's why it's like we got to get our mindset dialed in. We have to make sure that internal world is really dialed in. We're clear on our goals. We're confronting our fears. We're being disciplined. That mindset piece touches all the other 4, but the other first one really is the music, right? You got to have dope music. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're at in your career. You got to make dope music. And even when you're out there and you're killing it, you're going to have to continue to make great music. You're going to have to continue to evolve as an artist. So this is the place to go if y'all need help on that, what I would kind of call that second pillar. And then for me, it's like branding, marketing, and networking. Those are the other 3 to like really get out there. But yeah, if you don't have the mindset and you don't have the music, the other 3 are also going to be really, really hard. So
yeah, I agree.
Really cool to see you serving in that space. And I love that you have the Crywolf one. Sounds really, really cool, because I mean, that was how I got into coaching in the first place, was teaching the Art of Flow class over at Icon Collective. And that's all about creativity. So I love nerding out on that stuff. That's really cool that you've got that going on. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit about the story behind DAW Nation. Like, what inspired you to start this company in the first place?
When I first started getting into music production, like I mentioned, I was looking for people to teach me, and there wasn't really a lot at the time that I was aware of. At the time, we just gotten married. We just had our first kid, and life really hit hard, right? I was like, oh crap, like I got to provide for my family. I really want to do music. I'm like, how do we do this? And so I did my research. I found a little school called Icon Collective, and I went there. And along the way, I found out, at least at the time, and to the knowledge of the professors at the time, one of the best ways to make money in the music industry was touring. And for most people, that's completely fine. For Wyatt Christensen, that is not fine. I have to stay home with my family. Like, I can't leave. That's non-negotiable for me. Family comes first. And so I was like, oh crap, what do we do here? And so I was like, okay, how do I do this thing that I feel that I'm called to do, music, and still provide for my family? And so I was in a business class one day at Icon, and Stu Murphy, remember Stu? He's such a good guy.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And so he told me something that's stuck with me ever since that day, which is, if you want to network, if you want to become friends with someone, if you want to enrich your relationship with somebody, find a problem that they have and solve it. You don't even have to solve it better than how they would have solved it. Just solve it. If you do that, you bring value to them. They want to keep you around. They want to be friends with you. They want to grow the relationship with you. And that freaking blew my mind. I was like, you're right. I think about all these times and all these relationships I have, and like my deepest ones are the people that served me the most and that truly loved me the most to help me in a variety of different ways. And I was like, how do I do that? How do I intermingle with that right now? And so I was like, okay, well, how do I do that at Icon right now? And at the time, over the online division, which is what I was on, there's this guy by the name of John Vaughn. And John Vaughn, I was like, okay, how can I serve John Vaughn? How can I apply what Stu taught me? And I noticed that the on-ground campus always had, when people come do shows and tours and whatever, they'd bring people in and interview them there. And I was like, what if I help John do that for the online divisions? I don't have to be in LA. It can be anywhere. I don't care where they are. And so I was like, okay, let's hit up John. John's, yes, please help me. This sounds amazing, right? And so I started hitting people up. Someone by the name of, and this kind of goes back to the story before, by a guy by the name of AU5. And so I was like, hey, you want to come do an interview at Icon? And he's like, absolutely, let's do this. And
for sure. It's so cool to see how willing to help a lot of artists are, you know? Like, I've had so many people, and like, I've got some big artists coming up that literally have hit me up, and they're like, dude, like, I'm so down to share, you know, share the wisdom, share the knowledge. It's so rad, man. It's such a cool industry. Obviously, like, not everybody is that way, but we live and operate in a really cool, beautiful industry.
We really do, man. And to give credit to what you just said, I continued hitting people up, and they were so willing and so giving to teach and come talk and give advice. And I was like, wow, this is fantastic. My time at Icon came to an end. I graduated, Student of the Year. Over in one of these corners, I saw my award over there.
Hey, let's go, student. We got Icon Collective Online Student of the Year in the house.
That's me. That's right.
Let's go.
And so, but the time came to the end, and I was like, all right, cool. Well, that was sick. I don't know what to do now. You know, like, I'm still kind of like, okay, that was a gem to learn how to help people, because that really, really helps you network and connect. I don't really know how to monetize yet. But then, you know, I was like, okay, I really, really, really got to put this into full gear. We're about to have our second kid, which was our first son. And I was like, okay, what do we do? Along the way, while I was interviewing people, we interviewed, and I met this guy by the name of Multiplier. He had a YouTube channel, like around 50,000 subscribers at the time. And I was like, okay, I hit him up, and I was like, okay, time to put my money where my mouth is. I was like, I have this idea, Multiplier. And I kind of told him what I was doing at Icon. I was like, what if we kind of take that idea of me reaching out to people and having them come do an interview, but have it like more production based?
Yeah.
And I'll schedule it. I'll edit the episodes. I'll take care of everything. Let me just upload it and release it on your channel. And he's like, duh. Like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And I was like, okay, sweet. So we launched it. It was called a series called In the DAW. The first episode was a Trivecta, and he came on and he broke down his song. It was his remix for his Millennium song, Fractures. The frick thing blew up. Like, it performed so much better than I ever thought it would. And I was like, man, we got something.
Wow.
We got something. And so I was like, okay, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And so I had another artist, and it just grew like wildfire. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But there was a hole that was left. There's some things to be desired with only releasing production tutorials, which is like more of the emotional and the philosophical and the business side of music, which is just as critically important as the production.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're releasing production tutorials. I can't do that. So what do? We start a podcast. And this one is called Behind the DAW, which is the one that Nick was on, which is very similar to your podcast. And that is how the In the DAW series and the Behind the DAW series came to be. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it was amazing. But then it came to a time where, I was working so relentlessly hard on this. I had income coming in from other places. And I was really just trying to build DAW Nation into this big concept. And I remember we started a Patreon and I worked so hard to get it up to $500 a month. And I was like, I got 2 kids. I got a wife. Like, I can't be spending this much time on something that's only bringing in $500 a month, unfortunately.
Yeah. And at that time, did you have the vision yet for what it was going to become? Like, did you
Not
see
at all.
it? Okay.
Not at all.
You were kind of, as we say, building the plane while you fly it.
That's exactly what I was doing,
Just
man.
figuring it out along the way, like one step at a time. Yeah,
man. I'm plummeting towards the ground. I'm like, wings. We need wings, man. And so yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, at the time when the Patreon was making around $500, I had no idea about courses. I had no idea about selling sample packs. I didn't really. I knew that was a concept. I didn't know how to do that or if I should go down that route. And in a very special, very sacred moment, when I was rocking my son to sleep one night, I had this very, very intense feeling came over me. Call it what you will, epiphany, revelation, good feelings, an idea, call it what you will. But if I had to take that, what I went through and wrap it in words, it would basically be stop focusing on the Patreon, trash it, go all in on making a course with AU5.
Wow.
That was the feeling, or that if I put it into words.
I call that like receiving the download.
Yeah, man.
It's like that the idea just comes from somewhere else, And to be honest, just I think to connect this with artists, it's like you are an artist. You are creating your piece of art is your business. I'm seeing like this whole podcast thing. This is my piece of art. This is my way it's my creation. And I think it's the same thing with artists is, sometimes you're sitting there calculating the math and science of like, all right, well, this is the formula for how I build something. But then I feel like the best ideas, like they come from somewhere else, when you're just like, you're in the shower, you're driving the car, and then it's almost like the universe throws you this little lightning bolt of this flash of this idea, this inspiration. And that could be like a melody. It could be some lyrics. And I think every artist has experienced that at some point. And I love to see how that applies to this moment as well. To be honest, man, like I was really lost on my coaching journey last year. I was like, I almost quit a couple times. I really didn't know what direction I was going. And it was actually in a breathwork session. I was literally like laying down on the floor. I don't know if y'all have ever done a breathwork class before, but it was like during this breathwork session, I'm laying there on the floor, like hyperventilating. And then it was just this lightning bolt was just clear, just the clarity of this insight was like, yo, get back into artist coaching. Like that's your community. Nice. That's who you're here to serve. And it was just like, whoa, okay. I'm just obeying the order, like it's not even my decision. It came from somewhere else. And so having the courage to trust that, I think, is such an important part of the journey. If you're down to just believe in some of this woo-woo shit that I like to talk about, but cool to see that. And I also don't think it's a coincidence that it was like while you're with your son, right? Obviously that's a big driving force is your family. You're there to provide, to protect, and you're literally holding your child, and the universe is just like, yo, here you go. Here's the next step for you.
You're absolutely right, man. I remember being in that room and just saying to myself, I was like, I don't know anything about making a course. I don't know if Austin's going to be into it. I don't know what to do with the Patreon that we just built. There's this whole list of I don't know, followed by let's freaking go. Let's do it. I'm all in at this point, right?
Yeah.
The feeling was so strong. And what a beautiful moment for that, by the way, of something that you've thought about so logically and so rigorously and that you've researched so much and you've given it your all and you can't find a way. And then all of a sudden just this lightning bolt of knowledge comes to you and you're like, I'm down. I'm so down.
Yeah. And right there, I think that is such a huge piece of the journey and of the process is not knowing. Like, I don't know what my future looks like. It's like I think a lot of people, and we could talk about the artist journey specifically, but really anybody pursuing any sort of greatness, it's like you don't know what the roadmap looks like, right? If you're taking the road less traveled, like maybe like if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, like there is a bit of a clear series of steps that you take. But for the rest of us that are pursuing the artist path or the entrepreneurial path, like there is the unknown. And this is what stops most people is like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I don't know really what I'm supposed to do. And it's that I don't know voice and fear is what keeps people on the sidelines rather than being like, I don't know, but I'm going to fucking go for it anyways. And I'm going to figure it out. And it's like, I like this metaphor that if you imagine that you're driving from one side of town to the other at night, or you're going on a road trip at night, you can only see as far as your headlights go. You can only see 30 yards in front of you. You don't know what's beyond that. You just have to trust that if I keep taking one step at a time, I'm going to figure it out and it's going to lead me somewhere cool, right? I'm going to learn, right? And so I really love that and definitely like acknowledge you for having the courage to just dive in and be like, I'm going to follow this feeling and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's a scary place to be, right? Driving at night with your headlights. Am I going in the wrong neighborhood? Probably. Let's go.
Yeah. No GPS. You're like, I just got to trust that I'm going, I think I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so that was a very scary time of life when that happened, because I was like, all right, I'm putting all my eggs in the basket, hit up Austin 85. And he's like, "Bob, man, let's do this."
Let's go.
He's so stoked about it. And so we did it. And, I remember the day, March 11, 2019, we launched our first course, which is very centered on sound design. And the only marketing that we did was released an In the DAW episode. And at the beginning of the In the DAW episode, we just talked about it. And I made more money in 24 hours than I did in 5 years. Like, it was ridiculous. Yeah, the amount of money that came in. And I was like, what? But then that was like, a huge dopamine hit. And I was like, wow, that was very exciting and very like, whoa, holy crap, like this is insane, right? But then the second wave that came after that was just the feedback and the impact that I saw that it was having on people. And they're like, thank you so much for creating something like this and giving this to us and doing the work of building the relationships and figuring out how to do the course and put it in a way where we can, and it was just like Dude. that was so satisfying. You know what I mean? Like it was just, because you're adding, so hard.
You're adding value. You figured out how to add value. And it started off with just, how do I add value to my community? Right? Starting with Icon and the online program. Even within Icon, it was like specifically the online community and the online course. How do I add value there? Right? And then continuing to ask that question, how do I add value to the greater community of music producers? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the right question to be asking. How do I add value?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That is the question. That question is by far at the core of every relationship you will ever have. Obviously, that's integral to building a business or a music career of any fashion. But that is at the heart of your relationship with your significant other. That is at the heart of relationship with your parents. That is the heart of the significant relationship of your children, of anyone in life that is of significance. How can I add value to them? You'll notice the more value that you bring to someone, generally speaking, as long as it's a textbook healthy relationship, the more value you bring, the more you value them, and the more they'll value you. And it's, anyways, yes. The answer is yes, Nick. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you bring up the relationship thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's so important, is asking that question, how do I add value? And another word for that is like, what can I give? Right? Where oftentimes, when you get into like, a partnership, you're like, oh, like, what does this person have? And what am I going to get from this relationship? And it's like, flip that around and think about like, what can I give when you approach your relationship, especially with like your significant other, like, what can I give? How can I serve this person? How can I help this person? It's like, it completely changes the game. And I think I've talked about that before, but David Alexander, the owner of Icon Collective, when I started working there, he introduced that concept to me, where he was like, hey man, if you're going to be a representative of our company, then I want you to always approach any interaction that you have with, with the industry and with people that you're meeting from the perspective of, how can I help? How can I serve you? Right. And that completely changed the game, man, completely changed my life. So I love that, you're such a great example of what happens when you follow that.
Thank you, man. And I completely agree with you.
So what happened next?
So what happened after that was I realized, holy crap, this is amazing. I love making courses. I love working with AU5, and I'm sure I'll love working with everyone else. Let's keep going. Let's keep bringing value. This is just so much fun. And so that's when I really, really, really got deep into the marketing side. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. I was ingrained in this culture, in this family culture of hardworking, industrial entrepreneurial mindsets. And I was like, all right, like let's tap into that part of me and really scale this business. And so that's when I really got into the marketing side of DAW Nation. And oh my gosh, it was like finding a jigsaw puzzle to my life. Like it was like, I can't believe I've been living without this. I love this. This is so much fun to market and to make ads and to see and to say, hey, we spend this much and we make this much back. And it was just so fun to me. And the business side just, I don't know, it was so wonderful and so fun. And it was so shocking because, like, as you said, like being in the music industry, there's like this aversion to the business side. And there's this, it's like, oh, cucky, yucky, spammy, scammy, kind of side of it. And my experience was the complete opposite. I was like, I understand why people could see it that way, but I was like, this is so much fun. Like, I don't understand why people would have a hard time with that. I actually still have a hard time understanding that.
Dude, I'm so glad that you bring that up because I literally just did like a one-off consulting call with this DJ duo yesterday, and they wanted to talk about how to market themselves better. And so it's like, of course, I'm always going to be digging into that mindset side. And when I dug in a little bit, it was like they hate it. They're like, they hate the marketing side, they hate social media. They're like this fucking shit. I'm like, all right, guys, until you clean that up and until you change your perspective and until you change your attitude, it's never going to work. Like, you got to find the fun in it, and that angle can look different for everybody. But like, when you can see this as a creative process, like you said, when you can see this as like a jigsaw puzzle and you're just like figuring it out, and it's like, puzzles can be fun. Maybe some people don't like puzzles. I don't know. Maybe some people are just never going to like it, but I would invite people to try to change your attitude, to change your belief system, change the way that you see it, that like it can be fun. It can be interesting. It's just something that you got to learn, and I think learning can be fun as well. I think for most people, a lot of people love learning music. Well, can you apply that same love and that same excitement? Because maybe in the beginning, I think it is really maybe confusing and intimidating and scary. But once you get a little further along, like, it can be fun. It can be interesting. And so I love that you share that.
Yeah, man. And to expand on that a bit more, think about it like this, okay? So, because there's been a tremendous amount of feedback with both on the podcast and listeners of the podcast, people that have bought our courses, of that aversion to marketing, right? Just like the one-off consulting session that you did. And to me, it's so shocking. Like, I kind of understand, but I don't fully understand it. If you create music, the fact that you are creating music, you are already marketing. We call that content marketing, right? The fact that you are creating a piece of art with the intent to be put out into the world for other people to participate in or to partake of, that is called marketing. That's just called content marketing, right? So you're already doing marketing. The fact that you are a music producer, that you're a singer, songwriter, whatever, and you're creating art, you are marketing. Maybe you're not necessarily marketing for money at this point. That's fine. You're marketing your brand. You're marketing your music.
It's like, in a way, your song is just a marketing tool to get people to come to your show.
It's exactly what it is.
If we are looking at the traditional model of being a touring artist, it's like, that's really where you're going to be making probably most of your money. So you're putting out songs hoping that, they're going to fall in love with it. But in a way, that's almost just a marketing tool to get them to come to the show, which is where you're really making your money.
That's exactly what it is, man.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. And so we can all, as artists, agree on that. It's like, okay, yes, I'm sure there are some people that just make music for themselves and they're completely satisfied. That's fantastic. That is not the majority of people. That is not. The majority of people want to make music, to put it out to other people, to have impact on their lives, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And so we can all agree at this point, it's like, okay, yes, the fact that I want to put out music so that it goes and affects people's lives, that is a form of marketing. Okay. So now let's keep going down that rabbit hole a little bit more. When does it start to feel uncomfortable? When does the marketing start to feel uncomfortable? Is it that you don't know how to do it? You don't know the theory behind marketing, the protocols behind marketing, the resources behind marketing? Is that where it starts to become uncomfortable? Or does it become uncomfortable when your association with marketing is tethered to the slick back hair, used cars salesman, Billy Mays, but that's not all kind of guy? And is that where the uncomfortableness comes from? Is it tied to some kind of form of unauthenticness? Like, you're just like, well, if I'm selling something, there's no possible way that selling in business can be associated with art and authenticity. Is that where that's coming from, right? And the answer is yes to all of them in some varying degrees, right?
Yeah. And also, I think for a lot of artists, it's like just putting yourself out there where they're like, I'm not comfortable putting myself out there, like talking to the camera, which is what a lot of marketing can be. It doesn't have to be, but like a lot of people are just like, I don't like doing that. I'm uncomfortable doing that. I'm much more comfortable just making the music, right? So yeah, there's a lot of different angles to the resistance that shows up for sure.
Totally. And that's truly unfortunate because hindsight's 2020. I'm speaking from the other side as someone that's been doing this for years now, that's built a company off marketing, right? This vast majority of money that we made is from marketing. And so now I'm sitting on the other side and I'm just so sad to see people have those perspectives. And I'm so sad to see people think about marketing that way. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how fun it is and how wonderful it is and how many more people's lives you could affect while still being you. You don't have to put on this Billy Mays persona. You don't have to be all infomercial about it. Like, to say that there is only one form of marketing, which is the scammy, sleazy, unauthentic marketer, is to say that there's only one type of restaurant. There's not. There's a million types of restaurants and a million variations of those restaurants. And that's the exact same with marketing. I mentioned earlier, content marketing. That is one form of marketing. There's influencer marketing, there's affiliate marketing, there's ads style marketing, there's email marketing, there's all spectrums of marketing that most people are not even aware of, where you can really tap into your authenticity.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Knowing what you know about marketing and obviously selling courses is perhaps a bit different than marketing yourself as an artist, but like if you were going to try to blow up an artist project, how would you go about doing that?
If I was to blow up an artist project, I've thought about this tremendously a lot. I'm going to say this in the most unmarkety, unbusiness-like way possible.
Yeah, dumb it down for us.
Can we agree? If we can agree on a few things, then my answer is going to make a lot more sense. Can we agree that the music industry, there's money to be made inside the music industry? Can we agree on that?
Yes, lots.
Cool. Can we agree that the music industry, though it has its nuances and its intricacies, it is still an industry that follows so many of the same practices and protocols and concepts of business that is found in almost any other form of business? Can we agree on that?
100%. A business is a business. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, for sure.
Thank you. If we can agree on that, then my answer is going to make a lot more sense, because a lot of people can't get past those first two questions. They assume that the music industry is some kind of fancy unicorn where all of the concepts of business apply to every other business and every other industry in the world. But once you walk into the music industry, it's like you enter the multiverse and all logic is thrown out the window. And
dude. It's sales, marketing, branding. It's all the same. It looks different, but it's the same fundamental practices and philosophies, right?
Exactly. And so if we understand that, now to answer your question, if I would do that, I'd do the exact same way that I would build any online business at all. Because, I mean, any music career at this point is basically an online business, right?
It's true. I've never thought about it that way either. It's really true.
And so I would build it, and obviously with knowing that there is going to be unique intricacies and nuances, but I'm talking like this big of intricacies and nuances. I'm not talking like enormous, groundbreaking, crazy differences in the music industry. And so basically what I would do is this. First off, I'd find out what is the product that I want to make. In this case, if we translate that to artist terms, what is the type of music that I want to make, right? And so once I have decided what that is and what that looks like, I'd be like, great, where is the audience for that? Who already has my audience? There's this wonderful concept called the Dream 100, which is a list of 100 people, or at least 100 people, who already have your audience, right? I'd make that list, I'd research that list, and that could look like people you want to collaborate with. That could be YouTube channels that would play your music. This would be radio stations and DJs and insert blank here, right? Of people who already have your audience. Once I have that done and have that all collected, then I would come up with probably a really solid business model. And I'd be like, okay, how am I going to monetize this? I did a wonderful episode with this person, and I'm going to leave him unnamed, but he was so pissed off because he's been doing this for years and he's not making that a lot of money. And I was like, okay, well, what's your business model? How are you monetizing your brand? He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
business plan. What's a business plan?
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, isn't it just like the more music I make and the better music I make, the more money that comes? I was like,
bro, that's 90%, dude. That's 90% of fucking artists, I swear.
I'm like, am I being punked right now? Like, I can't tell if you're serious or not. Like, You want all the benefits of a business without treating it like a business?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, would you do that with anything else?
Yeah.
Would you expect to get all the benefits of a marriage without treating it like a marriage? Would you get all the benefits of being a parent without treating it like a parent? Like, it was so shocking to me. Anyways, if we're going for specifics of what Wyatt would do, I would basically come up with some type of value ladder, which is some kind of products that would be associated with my brand that felt authentic to my brand. And I'd have a very low ticket one, probably like between like $1 and $100. I'd have a mid ticket one, which is between like $100 and $500, and a high ticket one between $500 and $1,000.
And I get that for my business, for your business. We're selling coaching, we're selling courses, like for sure. But for an artist, for someone that's just making music, trying to be a DJ, they're going down that headliner tour path, that's what they want. Like, what would an example of that be?
There is a fantastic author that I would recommend everyone to check out to see a author version of what we're talking about, because though there's arguably more money to be made in being an author, they kind of come up with the same problem. They spend all this time writing these books, just like we spend all this time making this music, and then sell it for what, $5 on Kindle? You know what I mean? Like, not a lot, just like streaming royalties.
Or nothing. Yeah, nothing. You put it up on Spotify and, get 1 million plays and get fucking $3, right?
Exactly. And people are still in books all the time, and people are still in music all the time. And so there's this wonderful author that I would encourage anyone to go check out because he does it so fantastic. What his name is Brandon Sanderson. Do you know him?
I've never heard of him.
He's one of my favorite authors of all time. He's definitely within the fantasy realm, but he's so fantastic. You go to his website, the dude has so many things for you to buy that are associated with his brand that brings value to his people. So his low tickets, let's start with the low ticket, because music producers, they're probably going to be well acquainted with this kind of stuff as well. Like his books, you could obviously buy his books, but you could buy these leather bound books that are like $100 and the most gorgeous things that you've ever seen. So it's like, to the artist, to the musician, this is like the merch. But what about the high quality merch, right? The people that are the super fans, right? You create the shirt that's like $150, but it's like the most premium thing ever. Your super fans are going to love that. So you can have obviously the merch that's kind of an easy one to go. Yeah. And when you're talking about low ticket, physical items like that are going to be the best. And you should do that. If you have a high caloric brand, meaning that there's so much depth to your brand, there's a beautiful story and visual branding to it. Dude. Like there's a meaning, there's a message to your brand. If you have that.
Yeah. And that's it. That's the key. And we talked about this, I work with the branding agency, the Cult Creatives, and Chris talks about this on the episode I did with him. It's something that we talk about a lot, is that the music is just the soundtrack to the movie, right? We're in the business of making movies here, of creating worlds. And that is like, if you have a brand, like a real cool, solid brand, then you can sell some shit, right? Absolutely. The music is just that one piece of content that contributes to the bigger picture, right? But it's like, if you don't have a dope brand, it's like Skrillex has Owsla and they're selling $200 bomber jackets of like Owsla, right? Because they've created a really good brand. People will pay $200 for that. So I think that's that missing piece right there that a lot of people really got to dig into, is like, what is the brand that you're creating? Because really the brand is what you're selling, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, dude. And I could foresee someone saying, oh, so I'm just supposed to sell merch? Is that what I'm supposed to do, Wyatt? Well, it's certainly an option. I don't think you understand how wonderful and how fun of an option that is. You don't just have to make a shirt. Crywolf, he makes masks. He makes wooden masks of his Crywolf logo that you can wear. That's so sick. He started making axes. He makes axes. Yeah, I don't even know how people do that. You know what I mean? And it's associated with his brand. And so anyways, I would highly encourage you to go check out Brandon Sanderson. The dude has every freaking variation that's tethered into his stories and into his worlds and stuff.
A good music example of that is the band Kiss. Right? Kiss. From like the 80s. I used to use them when I made the branding lessons for the Icon Collective Music Business Program back in the day. I would use Kiss as an example, because if you go just like Google search or Google image search Kiss merch, there's like 500 different things that will pop up. They literally have a fucking coffin. You can buy a Kiss branded coffin to bury yourself in. Like, these guys are fucking insane. But they're just like, let's come up with 500 different ideas and just sell all this shit. It's wild. And like, again, they have the audience, but they also have the audience because they have the brand. They were doing something, wild and crazy and painting their faces and wild stuff. But anyways, a strong brand gives you a lot more options.
Totally. So with the lower ticket, there's so many different types of things that you can sell as a low ticket, meaning $1 to $100, right? It doesn't just have to be physical. It could be some kind of digital, depending on what your brand is centric around. You know, there's a lot of different ways that way. But then you go into mid-ticket. So once you get into mid-ticket, this is where people are starting to pay to connect personally with you. I don't think you understand, regardless of what your brand message is and what it is about, how many people want to connect with you on some way. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's they want a private or at least group live performance from you, and that you're talking to them and connecting with them and answering questions with them and spending time with them. I've seen that done. Crywolf is another really fantastic example of this. He'll do online shows. Instead of him going out and touring, he'll do online shows. He'll set up one fantastic like multi-camera setup and have all of his instruments all set up to it and do a live show and connect with his audience. And it's just like a normal ticket. That's another thing that you can do. This is called the one-to-many, right? Where they're getting personal time with you, but it's amongst a whole bunch of people. Like for you, Nick, it's a group coaching call, right?
Yeah. And that's coming. Everybody stay tuned. Join my mailing list and you'll be the first to know.
That's right. And so that can be a bit higher of a ticket. That could be like 100 to 500 depending on the brand.
It's going to be $45,000.
That's wonderful. Then screw the down payment on the house.
Yeah.
Go coaching call with Nick. And so that's kind of more the mid ticket, but then you get to the high ticket, and the high ticket is the ultra personal stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, most people, the knee-jerk reaction to kind of what I'm describing right now is like, why do I give them like private lessons? And it's like, well, what's your brand's associated with? Because if you're a producer's producer like AU5, that works. But if you're not, if you're like Crywolf, that doesn't work.
You fly to their house and cook them dinner.
That's right.
$1,000.
Exactly. And you can do that. Like, that's fantastic. It just depends on what you're about. There's a wonderful artist by the name of Ronit. Are you familiar with Ronit?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I do. Yeah, I know her.
Yeah. Ronit has done this without knowing that she was doing this. What she would do was, you know, with her brand that's very, very, very tethered to like the witchcraft.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
It's super cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool, you know, doing like moon rituals and stuff like that. And so what she does, I believe what she does is like, come do this live stream moon ritual with me. And I don't know if that's the opt-in product, meaning it's free, or if she charges for that. Regardless, she does it.
Yeah.
Right. And then they do the moon ritual. And then she's like, by the way, if you want to do the moon ritual and next time with me, but have an even crazier experience, I have these moon ritual boxes. And so she sells these boxes with all this cool stuff, but it's all tethered to her music. You see what I'm saying? Like, so
I think that's the big thing is, like you said, thinking about the business model, and especially for a lot of, you know, the DJs out there and music producers that are following me, it's like there is the typical traditional stuff that's being done. It's like, go out there, get a manager, get a booking agent, start touring. There's also a lot of other stuff that you could be doing. And there are a lot of other artists that are out there that are doing cool stuff, that are taking inspiration from maybe other industries and playing with different types of business models. You know, I'm a big fan of comedy. I live here in Austin, Texas, the new up and coming comedy capital of the world. A lot of those guys do this thing called Cameo, where it's like you can pay them however much money and they'll send you like a customized video message. And there's all sorts of different ways to make money. So I think that's a great seed to plant. And also there's that concept about 1,000 true fans, where if you can get, you know, even just having 1,000 fans, but if each of those fans pays you $100 a year, you're making $100,000 a year. You're making six figures. So you don't have to have 1 million followers. You don't even have to have 10,000 followers. I mean, you need 1,000 real true fans, but can you come up like $100 a year is not a lot of money for somebody to spend. It's just a really great thing to think about. You know, a lot of people's goals are, how do I become a full-time artist? And there's just different ways for how that can look.
Right. And to finish off what I'm saying with that really, really quickly, once I know my business model and once I know my value ladder that we were just talking about, this product leads to this product, which leads to this product, which leads to this product, then I would start marketing that. And so I'd do that through either content marketing or influencer marketing. One of the ways that I love the most of marketing is paid advertising. And so if you understand a business model and you understand how to market, you're not blowing money. It's not like, oh, I'm doing a song release. All right, let's put $100 behind it for what? To see that the 1,000 people clicked on your ad Like, that's terrible marketing. Don't do that. The only time that you should put any money into any advertising online is if you can spend $1 and at least make $1.01 back, right? That is the only time that you should ever do that. And so I'd move into the marketing phase, which is be like, okay, if I spend $1, how much am I making back? If it's profitable, you crank it up and you keep going. And then just kind of reiterate and refine the cycle. That's my answer.
Yeah, I really like that last part because you're already thinking about, before I even am trying to like scale and blow up, it's like, well, how am I actually making money from my fans? Not just like, a lot of people just focus on like, how do I build my Instagram? And like, that's cool. You could have, 10,000, 100,000 Instagram. I mean, I know people that are getting millions and millions of streams on their Spotify, which is what everybody's focused on. But then they go and play a show and 5 people come and they're not selling any tickets. Man. So it's like, business model wise, does it really work?
No, it's a terrible business model.
As a fellow business owner and entrepreneur, what are some of the challenges that you've faced along the way? The inevitable challenges that life and entrepreneurship are going to throw at you?
There's 2 different types of challenges that I have experienced that are probably the most intense. The first one is business-related challenges. How do I code? Where do I market? How do I edit a video? Blah, 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 blah. Like whatever those challenges are, right? The second one is things outside of the business, but that absolutely influence the business. Most of the time, that's your social life, your relationships, your family, and so on and so forth. The first category, which is the business side, is drastically easier than the second category.
Yeah.
The first category, though difficult, it doesn't even come close to difficulty with the second one. Because the first one is, I don't know how to, I don't know what microphone to buy. Okay, well, watch like 10 YouTube videos and you're done. And like you can move on from that point, right? Like that's relatively simple. Or I don't know how to submit my music to Spotify. Okay, well, again, a couple of YouTube videos and you figure it out. Like Google, it's not that difficult. Yeah, it's not that difficult, right? But without question, the biggest challenge that I have had is the relationships outside of the business and trying to take care of those and keep those going and keep everyone happy and healthy while still trying to keep the business going to take care of them, to have that, to take care of everyone is probably the most 4D chess challenge I've ever come across in my life. I relate it to a Rubik's Cube that is fighting against you as you're trying to solve it. It's awful.
For sure.
And so, I would say that category is probably the biggest one.
For sure, because when you are your business, right? Like when you, as an artist, it's like you are your business. If your personal life and that stuff starts to get challenging, then inevitably, like it can become really hard to run the business as well. Right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
so
right.
What do you do when life gets hard?
That's such a good question. It's such a hard question to answer because if you will, imagine you're having a hard time with your relationships, with your business, but it's doable. It's like, okay, this sucks, but I can do it. I got to put my head down and work. That's like one category of issues, and those suck. But it's you can still work through it. Take some time, take some effort, take some elbow grease. But you if you have enough determination, you can kind of get through it. The next kind of category is drastically harder. And that's like, take that same thing that I just talked about, but like times it by 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like the category 5 hurricane that comes through and like fucks life up.
That is like to the point where you kind of look at your situation and it's like, this is cruel that anyone, not just me, that anyone would have to go through this.
Yeah. Have you ever had one of those moments before?
Without question, dude. It's happened multiple times throughout the DAW Nation lifestyle. Or throughout the DAW Nation lifespan. And without going into too many details with that, there was a time in my life where I overcommitted to so many things. I thought that we could fulfill these many courses and this many things. Couldn't do it. I was stressed. I felt like I was burning bridges. And then at the time, me and my wife felt like we needed to have another baby. Long story short, we lost the baby. It was tragic. It was awful. It was so detrimental. And while we lost the week we lost the baby, there was a product launch and I just had to keep going. And so I'd hold my kids while they were crying, no, their little
Fuck.
sister isn't coming anymore.
Dude.
And you know what I mean? Like, and holding my wife. And after they went to bed, then I stayed up all night working on the product launch, and then wake up with them in the morning after an hour of sleep. And then it just kept going after that. Like, it just didn't stop. I had a lot of mental health struggles after that, and health struggles, and I developed insomnia, and then my niece died, and then we found out we were pregnant again, and then my wife almost died because she had hyperemesis, and then, you know, it just so many things that just happened. Like I said, it's like you're like 15 layers deep. One of those layers could break a man, right?
Yeah.
And now we're like 15 layers deep. It's like, what do you do during those times? And I don't have a good answer for everybody. I've reflected on that a lot, of what I did. And there's still a tremendous amount of, I don't know how I made it through. Like, I don't, if I had to go through that again, which more than likely, statistically speaking, I'm going to have to go through something similar to like that again. I don't entirely know, but what I do know is that I remember holding my kids as they cried, knowing that their little sister wasn't going to come home. I remember holding my wife as she cried, as she knew that she had to birth a baby that wasn't alive. I remember, you know, staying up so late, crying my eyes out, trying to figure out the business problems. And I remember kind of having the conversation with myself at the time, saying to myself, basically something to the extent of, you do not prove that you are a good husband or a good father or a good man when things are easy. You do not do that. The only time that you can prove to yourself that you are loyal to your children, that you are loyal to your spouse, that you are loyal to your business, that you are loyal to your passion and your drive and your dream, is when the world absolutely crumbles before you.
Fuck.
And so I remember just being like, the time will come when this product launch is over, and I will kneel on my knees and I will beg God to explain to me why my child had to be taken from me when this happened. But right now, it's like the soldier Wyatt, the warrior Wyatt, the hard-chested, broad-shouldered Wyatt is what is needed. And so that is what I will do. I will turn my emotions off to the best of my ability right now, and I will trudge forward, and I will do anything that I need to. But the time will come when I stand before, you know, whatever I believe in, and I'm like, how dare you take that child away from me? And then right after that, say, please help me understand why you took that child away from me. Kind of coming to terms with the emotions and letting them all out and completely unfiltered. And that time did come after everything, and it was beautiful, and it was healing, and it was wonderful. And I guess to bring this back into, you know, the listener's perspective, what can they do at that time? The best advice that I have for you is, first off, absolutely expect that it's going to come. Something is going to come. If you are destined for greatness, if you are going to do something beautiful, if you're going to change lives and change the world, at least in some variation, you better believe that all hell is going to break loose. That is not a question of if, it is a question of when. It will, and you will be tested, you will be broken, you will be taken to the edge of your sanity. And if you can get to that point, and at least have some variation of what I just said, which is, this sucks, this is awful, but this is absolutely necessary for me to do what I need to do, it makes it, at least in some regards, a little bit easier, and to give you a little bit more fuel to keep going one more day.
Yeah. And
that's as much as I can give for something like that.
Fuck, man. Yeah, dude, that's some real life shit right there, man. Thank you for sharing that part of your journey with us, because it's not always easy. It's not always easy, and it gets fucking real. And, you know, it makes me think about this metaphor that I use all the time, which is about getting in the arena, which is having the courage to get off the sidelines, which I think 90% of people are living their life from the sidelines, watching the gladiators fight in the arena. And especially, being an entrepreneur, like taking the road less traveled, doing the artist thing, like it's about getting in the fucking game. And I use this gladiator metaphor because it's not a matter of if you get hurt, it's a matter of when, right? And it's like, you're going to get punched, you're going to get kicked, you're going to get stabbed. And it's like, if that's not some gladiator warrior shit, then I don't know what is, man. Because you took a fucking blow. It's like you got your arm cut off, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, am I still gonna fight with just my left arm now, right? Or am I gonna lay down and die? And like, it sounds like life really forced you to dig deep and access part of yourself that you've probably never accessed before.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, man. Well, if that's not some headliner mindset shit, I don't know what is. You're fucking amazing.
It's absolutely hell when you're going through it. But if I could offer one more piece of advice for when people do go through that, notice the language that I'm using, when you will go through that, because you don't have a choice at this point. If you're gonna live your dreams and fulfill your purpose on earth, you're gonna go through that. There is this concept that did help me during that time, and that has helped me in various different problems with the business and with life and so on and so forth. It's this concept of that I call a complaint list. It's not a list of things that you can complain about. It's a list of potential solutions to the problem that you have at hand. You literally write out a list, type out a list, whatever, of all the potential solutions, all the potential things that you could do to solve your problem. And where it gets its name, the complaint list, is you do not have the right to complain until you have tried every single thing on that list to your full capability and to your full capacity. Once you have done that, once you have written that list and went through it and maybe written some more and gotten your friends to write on the list of things that you could do and coaches and everything else put on the list, once you get to the end, and if your problem is still not solved, if you still can't figure it out, then you have Wyatt and Nick's full unbound blessing to complain about the situation as much as possible. But the thing is, you're probably gonna get like 3 solutions in and be like, oh, there it is, got it, fixed it, right? And that, I had to do that in those times. I had to write down a list being like, okay, what can I do to just get through the next week of my life? I can call my mom to come help with my wife and the kids. I can hit up my church so that we can get some meals coming in. I can hire this person to start doing this so I don't have to. I get whatever. Like, I came up with all kinds of stuff, and it really didn't take that long for me to at least come out the other end alive. You know what I mean? And to fight through all the demons, right? And so I would highly encourage you to do that. And even on a smaller scale, even if that's where you're at right now, you're like, I don't know, I put out a song and I'm not getting as many views. Make a complaint list. What is your complaint list about it? Like, what are the things that you could do to get more views, or whatever your particular goal is, right? And just remember, you don't have the right to complain until you have done those things. If you have, then you're not serious. You know what I mean? Anyone that feels like they need to complain before doing the complaint list, I'm sorry, you're not serious about your business. You're not serious about your craft. You're looking for an easy way out, right? Anyone who hears the concept of the complaint list and was like, my man, that sounds amazing, I know you're serious because you actually care and you want to solve the problems, right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways.
Let's fucking go. That is a mic drop moment right there from the man, the myth, the legend. Dude, straight up, I couldn't be more inspired by who you are.
Thank you.
As a man, as a human, as a husband, as a father. Like, I truly hope that if and when that day comes that I become a husband and a father as well, that like I am a just percentage of who you are, man, because you are incredible and I love you. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on today and share your story, share your wisdom. So amazing.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate you. I love you. And you're going to be a much better dad and husband you could ever even fathom. I wish you were my dad. That's how much I respect you. That's not an issue we're going to get into, but thank you, dude. Thank you. And thank you for letting me come on. And I really hope that, this resonated with some people and helped some people. So.